You don't need to spend a fortune on your bridal makeup. Honestly, in today's economy, it's becoming harder and harder to achieve affordable bridal makeup. Bridal makeup artists are charging more and more. The prices of makeup are going up and up. There are hundreds of makeup products being launched all the time, and it's hard to know what's good, and most people can't afford to try every single makeup product that comes out on the market. That's ridiculous. So in today's video, I'm showing you how to achieve this exact bridal makeup look using only affordable products. I'm a professional makeup artist and I test makeup products for a living. So I've tried hundreds of products from the drugstore and I know what's good, I know what sucks, and I'm here to just be honest with you guys, show you my techniques to achieve this as well as the products because both are important. I used to do a lot of bridal makeup, so this video is going to be very detailed, so in case you want to start doing bridal makeup as an artist or if you want to do your bridal makeup on yourself and you're on a budget and you want to know what is good to use, stay tuned, watch this video. I'm going over everything for you. The order you do your bridal makeup in is really important, and honestly, what I would recommend to you as a professional makeup artist is to start with the eyes instead of starting with your base. The reason I start with eyes is because typically with bridal makeup, we are applying a little bit more eyeshadow. Sometimes you're working with glitters and there can be a little bit of fallout. So you don't want to spend all this time working on a perfect base and then have it be ruined by your eyeshadow. So this is easily avoidable by just simply starting with the eyes. So let's get right into it. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just priming the eyes with some concealer, and this is the Maybelline Super Stay Activewear Concealer. This is my favorite longwear concealer, period. Doesn't matter drugstore or luxury. I love this one. I've raved about it in a lot of my drugstore videos. But I'm just applying a really thin layer of this on my eyelids. This is going to create a nice base for our eyeshadows to adhere to. It's also going to prolong the wear time of our eyeshadows while also covering up any discoloration on our lids. See how smoothly that concealer applied on our lids? I love this concealer because A, obviously it lasts a very long time, but B, it actually is very crease resistant. I don't want to say crease proof because obviously our skin, anywhere we have fine lines, is going to be subject to creasing, but this is the one concealer I would say of all concealers I've tried that creases the least. Like at the end of the day, I don't have any creases, which is crazy to say because I almost always do, but this concealer does not. So just something to keep in mind if you struggle with creasing, maybe try this one. So I'm pretty picky about drugstore products. I do tend to find myself gravitating more to mid-high-end products just because of the performance. However, I found a couple really good quality products, and most of these products I'm talking about today perform just as good as luxury, if not better. It took me a long time to discover some of these products, but this eyeshadow palette is one of the best eyeshadow palettes I've ever tried from the drugstore. In my opinion, it's hard to find a good eyeshadow palette from the drugstore. So I'm going in with the NYX Warm Neutral Eyeshadow Palette. This palette consists of matte formulas and shimmer formulas, and I just think the color range is really pretty. They're mostly warm tones, but we have some more neutral tones in there as well. I'm going to be mixing two shadows today for my crease color. I'm going to mix this kind of warmer matte tone here with this slightly cooler taupey shade here. It's going to give us a nice neutral crease color. And what I like to do after mixing those two shades, I just swirl my brush on the palm of my hand just to really make sure those two colors are mixed and that I don't have too much product on my brush. This is a Revela 15 brush, by the way, really good crease shadow brush. It really airbrushes the shadows. And I'm just lightly dusting that color all over my lid in windshield wiper motions. I am sort of creating a little bit of a cat eye shape. I'm not being too precise with this. I'm allowing this to go on my lids a little bit. What I care most about is getting an airbrush and diffused finish. So please make sure you go in with a light hand and build up slowly. You really want to avoid going in with too much product right off the bat. For this look, what we do on the top, we're kind of going to be doing on the bottom too. So I'm taking a Revela 03 brush and I'm just using that same color combination and running the shade along my lower lash line, keeping this pretty close to the lash line. I don't want this to be too smoky. This Revela 03 pencil brush is really, really good for detailed areas like this. I love it so much. It makes the eyeshadow very easy because sometimes I feel like this step can be overdone very quickly. So now I'm going to start to add a little more definition to the eyes. I'm going in with this shade here. This is a little bit more of a deeper medium brown, and I'm taking this tiny little brush. I don't even know where this is from, but Revela does a really similar brush. I just can't find it, so I'll link it down below. Everything I use is going to be linked down below, super easy for you guys, so check that out if you want to know what products I'm using. And I'm just gonna take that and I'm gonna start adding a little bit of shadow along my lash line. I'm mainly focusing this on my actual lid instead of creating a wing with this. Again, I'm keeping this pretty close to my lash line. I don't want this to be too smoky. I just wanna bring a little bit of attention and definition to the lash line. So think like a thin winged liner for this step. Okay, so you see how that almost looks like a thin winged liner minus the wing part for now. This method specifically, using a really small pencil brush like this, creates a really soft, almost smoky looking liner on the eyes using shadow. And this is probably one of the most beginner friendly ways to do liner, or if you want a bit of a softer look on your big day, this is a really good technique to do just because it creates like a sultry but soft, you can't really tell where the shadow starts or begins. It's just very, very pretty and photographs really well too. So now we have a little bit of definition. We're slowly building this up. I'm gonna go in with this dark shade right here. This is like a dark plummy brown. I'm just using that exact same brush. And now I'm focusing on the wing part of the liner. I wanted this to be a little bit darker. I wanted it to have a nice gradient from the inner corner being a little bit lighter to the outer corner having the most depth. So I brought that other shade on the lid almost all the way to my inner corner, and now we're using this darker shade to build up the outer wing. Again, nothing too dramatic, staying nice and soft with this. Using whatever's left on my brush, using that same shade, I'm just going to begin to create a little bit of definition on the outer V by dragging the outermost corner of that winged liner into my crease, almost mixing the two together. You want to be really light-handed with this. You don't want this to be too crazy. You want it to be very, very subtle, which is why I'm not picking up any additional product. At this stage, it doesn't need to be perfect because now we're going to go in with that same color combination we used in our crease. I'm going in with the Tennille Jai Carve and Apply brush. And I'm just blending over those edges of the liner and where we drug that dark shade into our crease to soften everything up and make it look super buttery and airbrushed. You still want to keep a very light hand during this process. Trust me, don't go in with a heavy hand because you want it to blend out faster. It's not going to give you the result that you want. Having a lighter hand and taking a little bit of extra time is really going to give you that seamless finish. After all of that blending, you probably noticed we lost a little bit of that definition. So not to worry, we're gonna go right back in and keep layering, picking up that same teeny tiny pencil brush and picking up this darkest shade here. We're just gonna go over that outer corner area really softly until we have that definition that we want. And then we're gonna connect that to the lower lash line. This is just gonna give us a bit more emphasis on the outer corner of the eyes, really enhancing that lifted, sultry sort of look. Now we're going to start building dimension on the base to make our eyes really pop. I'm going in with this L'Oreal eyeshadow stick in the shade Twinkly Rose, and I'm just messily applying that onto my eyelid at first. And then using that same Carve and Apply brush by Tennille Jai, I'm using the Carve side to pat that into my lid. That shadow is gorgeous and it's going to last us all day long. Keep in mind, I didn't apply that shadow on top of that dimension I made close to the lash line. I made sure to avoid that area. I really only applied it on my mobile lid where we haven't really applied shadow already. And then what we do on the top, we're gonna do on the bottom. You can go right in with this stick, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna take that brush I just used to pat out my eyeshadow and just pick it up on the brush for a little bit more control. Because this is a bridal look, I want the shimmer to be really shimmery and poppy, so I'm gonna layer a powder shadow on top of that stick eyeshadow that we just applied. This is the e.l.f. Finest Fleck eyeshadow in the shade White Hot. And this is just a gorgeous shimmer shadow from the drugstore, so affordable but so beautiful. I'm going to use my finger to tap this right on top of that shadow we just applied, and look at how beautiful that glitter dimension is that we added. It is just so stunning when it catches the light. When you look down, oh, it just completes the whole look. I'm gonna pop that in my inner corner as well, and a little bit on my lower lash line. To tightline, I'm going in with the Essence Stay in Play Gel Eyeliner in the shade But First Espresso. This is just going to intensify the lashes a little bit more. This is also one of those steps that I think completes the look. It's also going to make our lashes look longer, and they're going to blend our lashes better with the eye look. This drugstore liner really lasts all day, all night long. It doesn't budge, but it's not the most blendable, so that's why I like to use this exclusively in my waterline or my tight line. So now the eyes are pretty much done, and it's time for lashes, which make a huge difference to this look. I'm going in with the Ardell Seamless Underlashes in the style Faux Mink. I'm convinced these are some of the prettiest eyelashes for a bridal makeup from the drugstore. These just look so pretty, but you do have to know how to apply underlashes. So I'm gonna walk you through it really quickly. I have a whole video on how to do this if you want it in more depth, but yeah. I'm using the Duo Underlash Bond and Seal. Starting with the bond, I'm coating that on my lashes, mainly focusing this at the base because that's where the lashes are gonna be mainly adhering to. I'm not trying to drag this all the way to the tips of my lashes. Once I'm happy with how much adhesive I have, by the way, I'm doing one eye at a time, I'm going in with my longest lash, which is 14 millimeters, and I'm just going to stick that right underneath my lashes on the outer corner, and then I'm going to pinch them together just like that. Super easy. And right next to it, I'm going in with a 12 millimeter, which is a little bit shorter, and I'm placing that right beside the 14 millimeter lash, not overlapping the two. And now for my shortest lash, I'm going in with my 10 millimeter lash, again, right next to the previous one I applied, not overlapping it at all. And then for my fourth and final lash, I'm just putting one more 10 millimeter lash, and there we have it. That is what the lashes look like. That was super quick and easy. I'm gonna just jump off camera and do the other side really quickly before we finish the lashes. All right, so as you can see, the other eye is done. I'm gonna go in with the seal side of this Duo Lash Glue, and I'm just gonna lightly apply that to the lashes. This is gonna make them not sticky anymore, so you won't have to worry about your eyelashes sticking together or anything like that. I just like to take my time, just make sure to coat the lashes nice and evenly. And obviously doing the same on both eyes. And then once these are set, they are not going anywhere. One of my favorite drugstore mascaras is the L'Oreal Telescopic Mascara. So I'm just gonna apply a tiny bit of that to the top lashes just to kind of blend everything together. And then whatever's left on my wand, I will put on my lower lashes. Okay, so now that the eyes are done, we're gonna move on to our base. Now, I don't always use a primer. Sometimes I do with bridal, sometimes I don't. It really depends on the skin type. But I am gonna go in with a little bit of e.l.f. Power Grip Primer. I'm just taking the tiniest little pea-size amount, and I'm applying that anywhere that my makeup kind of wears off a little quicker. So like I'll put it a little bit in my forehead area, a little bit on my cheek here, a little bit down onto my smile lines, just ever so slightly, and a little on my chin as well. And you want to give that a couple minutes to kind of set down and get tacky. Once that's gotten tacky, I'm going in with my L'Oreal True Match Foundation, and I'm applying this very, very sparingly on my face with my finger before blending it out with my go-to Hourglass foundation brush. This is my personal favorite brush for foundation. I will link it down below. I just find it does a beautiful job of airbrushing the foundation out, not leaving any streak marks. It just does such a good job. I love the shape of it. This foundation gives beautiful coverage, and it's very easy to blend out. It's not too heavy, it's not too light, and they offer so many shades in this foundation. I just think this is such a classic. Another tip I want to give to you if you're doing your own bridal makeup, when you do your skincare, you really want to make sure that you exfoliate your skin. This is going to save you from patchy looking foundation later on. Exfoliate and hydrate really well before you even start applying your makeup. So just that thin layer of foundation evened our skin pretty nicely, but I am going to go in with concealer for a little bit of extra coverage. I'm going back in with my Maybelline Superstay Concealer, and this concealer is so good. Under the eyes, all over the face, anywhere you have blemishes, I just love to use this concealer because it lasts all day long, and it feels really light on the skin. I honestly can't believe this is a drugstore concealer. It's so underrated. Oh, I'm in love with this concealer. It is just so incredible. By the way, I do want to just say, if you guys want to know how I do my more regular bridal makeup tutorial, I actually have a bridal masterclass. I'm going to link it down below. I go over everything in that video. I go over skin prep, I go over base, eyes, lips in great detail for you guys. So if you want to do a deep dive into my typical techniques, because I don't typically use all drugstore products, check that out down below. If you are doing your own makeup for your own wedding, or maybe you're a makeup artist who does bridal makeup, this is a really great masterclass where I hold nothing back. I'm gonna be so for real with you guys. I haven't really found a drugstore bronzer that I absolutely love. I think this is technically considered drugstore, but you let me know. I got this at Ulta. This is the Juvia's Place Cream Bronzer. This one is in the shade Buttercream. And I'm picking this up with a Makeup by Mario F4 brush, and I'm really bronzing up my face. I'm applying this to the perimeters of my face, mainly my cheekbones, lifting them up, on the sides of my forehead, a little bit on the sides of my nose as well. I chose this one because it blends out so easily. It also has a slight bit of like pearl throughout it. Not that it's shiny, it just looks like skin instead of a flat matte bronzer. So I find for bridal makeup, this looks really, really natural. So now I'm gonna go in with blush. I do wanna do a little bit of a pinky blush, but with this look, you can kind of just use whatever you want. I'm going in with the Morphe Cheek Thrills Multi-Face Trio in the shade Blind Date. And using a Morphe blush brush, I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of this cream blush shade on top. And I'm gonna apply that to my cheeks in a lifted motion because I want my face to look very defined and lifted. I'm also gonna put a little bit on my nose just to tie everything together. And then for a little bit of glow, I'm gonna pick up that shimmery middle cream blush shade. And I'm just gonna focus that on the high points of my cheekbones. This is gonna glimmer so pretty in photos. It just is such a nice combo. I want a little bit more glow, so I'm going in with one last cream product. This is the L'Oreal Paris Lumi Le Glace Highlighter Stick in the shade Glassy Pearl. I'm gonna melt that product into my skin a little bit by warming it up on my finger first. And I'm just gonna tap that on the highest point of my cheek here. Oh, this glow is so beautiful. And for a drugstore formula, this is such a nice, natural looking highlighter. It's more pearlescent, it's not chunky, which I like to avoid chunky highlighters for bridal just because I feel like it emphasizes texture and it doesn't look natural, but these look so pretty and just glassy and dewy. They really nailed it when they called this product Lumi Glass because it literally looks like glass on the skin. So here's a pro tip. If you want your makeup to last a really long time, for example, for bridal makeup, you're gonna wanna set your face before you powder. So I'm going in with the L'Oreal Paris Infallible 3-Second Setting Mist. This claims to give up to 36-hour wear. I've never tested that. I think that's a little crazy, but it does give you a very long time, at least 12 hours. I just noticed that my makeup lasts way longer when I use this setting spray. It honestly, I feel like it kind of makes my makeup like waterproof. So I'm gonna spray my face with that setting spray, just a nice, good, even layer. And then I'm just gonna use this little handheld fan to dry everything down. Really quickly, I'm gonna do my brows. I'm going in with the Maybelline Build a Brow pen. And I'm just using the pen side to draw a couple of hairs onto my brows. I want my brows to look really natural for a bridal look. So I find that this does a really good job, but just make sure you take your time and be really light-handed with this. And then to gel my brows in place, I'm going in with the L'Oreal Paris Brow Lamination Gel. This one lasts so long. You don't have to give your brows a laminated look, but you really can achieve that with this if you want. I prefer more of a fluffy look, so I just apply a little bit less product. This brow gel is one of the more longer lasting brow gels that I've tried at the drugstore. So at the end of the day, not a single brow hair is gonna be out of place if you use this. Now I'm gonna do lips, which is my favorite part of the makeup look. For bridal, you need your lips to last all day, and it's actually really hard to find a good lip liner that actually lasts throughout the day. But these ones by Maybelline last so long. The colors are so good. I just really think this is one of their best launches in a while. This is a Maybelline Lifter Liner, and I'm starting with the shade Line Leader. This is a soft pink color. I'm overlining my entire lip with this. If you like Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk, you'd probably really like this color. It's quite natural looking. Kind of gives a your lips but better look. Intentionally chose a shade close to my natural lip color. This one's just a little bit pinkier because it's gonna look natural when I add that volume to my lips. If the color is too different from my lip color, it's gonna be a bit more unnatural looking and a bit more noticeable that I overlined. And this is a little lip hack for even more fuller, juicier lips if you want the appearance of that on your big day. I take a more contour shade of lip liner. This one is the Maybelline Lifter Liner in the shade On It. And I just outline the outer corners of my lips. This does contour the lips and make them look more juicy and pouty, which I personally love, especially for pictures. So now we have a really good base for lipstick. I'm going in with one of my favorite nude lipsticks from Revela. I actually just recently did a whole video on my top 7 favorite nude lipsticks. You can check that out on the screen or down below. I did mention this one. This is a Revlon Super Lustrous Lipstick in the shade 755 Bare It All. And I'm just gonna tap this all over my lips as my all over lip color. This is a really pretty kind of peachy nude shade. This is perfect if you have fair skin like me. And then for a slightly more nude effect, I'm going with this Milani lipstick. This one is in the shade 410 Pleasure. This is a very pale nude, so I'm really only using this to highlight and accentuate the center part of my lip. So again, we get that juicy plumped look. This look wouldn't be complete without a gloss. And hear me out, this isn't technically a drugstore gloss, but the glosses that I like from the drugstore, let's say Milani, Maybelline, those kind of glosses, they're between the $12 and $19 mark Canadian, so a little bit more USD, but I created my own gloss and I can't help but use it. It's the prettiest, glassiest gloss ever, and it's 19 Canadian, 21 USD. So this is not a super expensive lip gloss by any means. It is still affordable. This is my Cheris Cosmetics Water Gloss. And I love this lip gloss for many reasons, but the applicator is one of them. I did so much hard work on this lip look, and those doe foot applicators really just disrupt my lip combo. So this one doesn't disrupt the lip combo, and also the applicator doesn't get messed up, so you can just wipe it off when you're done. And obviously the shine is just insane. This does have a slightly cooling effect. It feels like a glass of water for your lips, but it also smooths out all the fine lines in your lips. So especially on your wedding day, you want your lips to look nice and smooth and glassy. If you want to check this one out, I will link it down below. And last but not least, we honestly don't really need to do this step because the base is done so well with long-lasting products, and as you can see, we aren't dealing with excess shine anywhere, but I do want to go in with a little bit of powder. This is the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder, one of the best powders I've ever used from the drugstore. I'm just applying this a little bit under my eyes and then any areas I get oily, so around my mouth and on my forehead, just a really thin layer of this to seal off the look. I'm using that powder puff and patting it into the skin, not dragging it. We don't want to disrupt all that hard work that we just did underneath. And this is the finished bridal look using all affordable makeup products, mostly from the drugstore. I love how this turned out. I did a non-drugstore version of this on my YouTube as well, and it looks just as good. You can do your bridal makeup with all drugstore products, no problem. You just need to know what products to buy, and luckily for you, I'm a pro makeup artist who has literally tested hundreds of products. So I know what's good and I know what sucks. So I would never recommend anything that I do not love and use myself. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. Let me know if you're gonna pick up any products that I mentioned in this video. And if you feel like I missed a really good drugstore product, leave it down below. You guys influence me to buy stuff all the time, so leave your drugstore makeup recommendations down below so I can go buy them. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.